to Hello Culture Matters podcast. I am so excited for this episode. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. The main characteristics shared by people who are high, HIGHT capitals on business success are ease in risk taking behaviors, desire for immediate gratification, attention deficit disorder, adventurous or thrill seeking, neuroticism or high levels of sensitivity or nervousness, anxiety or depression, obsessive or compulsive behavior, high intelligence, always wanting more, limit busters. Do you relate to any of these? Quote, Christine Beckwith, our guest today, a staple on the Culture Matters podcast, author of Selling is a Drug, and so many other amazing books like Finding Honor and Breaking the Cycle. And I could go on. Wow, that quote just hits me. We're talking about chapter 3, Addicted. Christine, thanks for coming back. What the hell is that?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're trying to get the reader in the first 3 to 5 chapters like totally roped in and really loving the content. This book is going to appeal to performance, professionals, people that are looking for high performance from themselves. That's really the words that I want to pop out. And selling as a drug, has a very edgy meaning, but a meaning that is understood in the language of high sellers. It is not off-putting to people that sell well because they completely understand what that means. It's elusive to people that don't have that selling soul, as I speak to in the first 2 chapters that we've done already, The Grind and Hooked. Once we get through this chapter, we start to get into the real tactical climb of expert selling and expert leadership. Addiction, can be a negative word. And since we have a tagline on the cover, selling as a drug, we wanted to dive in to the elephant in the room, which is, can there be, a positive addiction? And, the truth is the chapter really does unpack that. In fact, it asked that exact question in there. And, I dive into what the answer is. And what I say is, and I'm going to just read how I answer that question. The short answer is yes. The Mayo Clinic says people who possess an addictive personality believe too much of a good thing is never enough. Addictive personality is an actual diagnosis. Do some personalities have traits that increase or even can be the same of addictive risk? I say yes again. Addictions can fall into 2 categories, misuse and overuse. And addiction can be excessive engaging in behaviors regardless of cost. This is the classic definition. And I argue it describes those afflicted by a misuse of addiction. In this book, I'm describing people who become addicted to the behaviors that lead to wealth, money making, and success. This defines the overuse of addiction. This position begs the question, do addictive traits come with the baggage of human costs, and are they always negative? That is not for me to decide or proclaim. What I know is personalities I have seen accomplish the most in the field of selling are the same people I recognize as addicted or obsessed with selling and winning in the business of seeking wealth through their transactional delivery. And so I go on to outline what I see as high characteristics of business success. And I list them as ease in risk-taking behaviors, desire for immediate gratification, attention deficit disorder, adventurous or thrill-seeking, neuroticism or high levels of sensitivity or nervousness, anxiety or depression, obsessive or compulsive behaviors, high intelligence, always wanting more, and limit busters. And that is a mixed bag of stuff that people in industries want to paint on people in society that may be negative, but in our field are additive to a call to work that requires a level of absolutely complete and utter dysfunction in a way to apply yourself to what I would consider like an impossible type of job. The best in class are not the cookie cutters. They're just not fit for the job. And so if you kind of think about, I always love, and I've quoted so many times, the movie with Tom Cruise and uh oh my God, Jack Nichols on the witness stand. Is it A Few Good Men? I think it is.
Yeah.
And he's, there's been a crime committed, and ultimately Jack Nichols is being interviewed as the leader of this person and whether he gave the call to order that ultimately resulted in the crime. And there's a famous, famous quote, and I'm not going to try to repeat it, but or quote it, but I can paraphrase and tell you that what the movie wants you to relate to this climatic moment where Tom Cruise just, puts Jack Nichols through the ringer interrogation and breaks him down until he's just spitting the freaking truth. And the truth looks like, while you look at me as grotesque in what I do, you stand every day in the need for me to be the person that defends your walls, that defends your security. And that job is grotesque. Having to make a call that costs a life to save lives or costs something dearly to, have something break through, um, is something that he defends is his call to honor. And while people don't like it, it's the job that he has. And it's funny because I never related to Tom Cruise. I know that the viewers of that movie are psyched at that moment because the villain's unraveling and he's admitting a crime. And so the climax in that movie, gives the credit to Tom Cruise for like getting him into a position to like, dismantle him. But what resonated to me is that, you know, I felt Jack Nichols in that more than anything because as I served as a leader in this industry, I was asked to do things that were hard and not understood well. And so I want to be clear, I wasn't asked to commit crimes, I wasn't asked to cover crimes. But I was asked to do the throat cutting, consolidation. We just went through this for the last 3 years, really tough 3 years where executive leadership would require, and on a good day when you're leading organizations and you're leading your own businesses, growth is benign. And what I mean by that is, doing positive things that help your businesses grow, is obviously very positive and attractive. But when you have to survive, which is called upon in our industry and in entrepreneurship, your leadership changes. Your requirements to lead forward changes. Sustenance or sustaining, if you build to a certain level and then something comes like an earthquake or a natural disaster to tear down the walls of your brick house, um, as a leader, you have to fortify your walls to begin to deal with the impact. You know that there's going to be a level of destruction. And great leaders do not, have a Pollyanna attitude about what's coming when the markets decline and intersections like this hit. They know there's going to be destruction. And so they're not emotionally fearful of what's about to happen. They're already going into action. They're filling the sandbags and placing them around their walls. They're already plotting the reconstruction from the anticipated destruction. And they're also calling upon an emotional message to help those that are less able to advance their minds through a forward intersection that includes horrific sights of death and whatever. I'm using metaphors, but death occurs in businesses when you're going through consolidation. I led 2020 for 3 or 4 years with incredible scaling and growth, and we were in a pattern of hiring and onboarding staff. And then one day the market shifted, and I was having to lay off people that were sitting next to other people who had become friends. And I knew in the moment that this shift was happening, that waiting or praying was not, would be costly. And so I took my first preemptive consolidation strike months before the real thing hit, and I saved essential capital for what I knew would be a worse situation in a year, by doing it. And really when it wasn't necessary to do, but it was more like a proactive type of approach. And being a leader to do that is hard. And it required me having a boiler room conversation with the survivors immediately following. I mean, I did the act, I let everybody go. I did it as kindly as I could to the people that had served. I still was met with really bad anger from some of the employees, very vocal. Ironically, some of the older employees were more vocal than the younger ones. Um, and then I had a meeting and I said, look, we're in a boat. The boat's taking on water. All of us have a bucket. Some of the buckets that you're holding, some of you have essential seats. You're still here. You're still going to be bailing. We're not even in the worst of the storm yet. And you just watched me toss bodies over the side of the ship, bodies that have served us, bodies that helped us row to this point of our business. And you're going to have to understand that the way forward is that this boat needs to get lighter, it needs to get faster. And so don't sit in the horror of what's just happened. We need to bail, and we need to bail now. And so this chapter is about the unsavory parts that are looked upon in excellence. Kobe Bryant, I'm gonna say, um, in his depiction written by Tim Grover in the book Winning, winning with the number one in the I spot, not to be confused with Jack Welch's book Winning, by the same title. But, you know, Kobe Bryant was obsessive, and people have an interesting relationship with that. Um, I love the quote, that says obsessed is the word that lazy people use to describe, uh, the successful. And it's true. And I have that reputation. I've had so many of my friends and so many of my colleagues, even people that I work with, say, man, you're driving so hard, you're pushing so hard that you're breaking people. I can remember a senior leader telling me, and I said, okay, well, let's examine the brakes. And they're like, what do you mean? I says, okay, so I had 3 people quit 1 month because I was like, I had my foot up my ass of a sales team that needed to improve. And I said, who broke? Like who quit? And I said, let's look at this. And the performance of the quitters, the early quitters, was really poor. These were the people that, when faced with getting out of their comfort zone, said, fuck this, I'm out. And I said, you know what just happened? We just made 3 seats for people that can handle where we're going. And so I understand that you want this to be nice and no loss, but there can be no war without loss, and there can be no victory without tragedy. So I'm not talking about bad attrition. I'm talking about healthy attrition. When you push, people let themselves out the back door. And the minute they raise their hand and say, this isn't for me, you strengthen the team, because everybody standing there has a feeling about the people that quit, and everybody that's still standing there has some sort of feeling about their own sustaining.
I had so many epiphanies. In closing, I want to share as a student, what I learned from this chapter. Challenge the audience to buy the book. They will have revelations because either not built this way, and I would challenge them to find someone to work with that is, uh, or they are, and they're going to come into an awakening of themselves, like a self awareness exercise. So this is my notes. Drug addict eats themselves. Their friends copy them. Their family loses them eventually. Their community pays for them. They're a liability on the balance sheet. A wealth addict, their business eats them. Their family has resources, food, water, shelter, education. Friends are inspired by them. And their community, upward mobility is created, deflation, things get cheaper. Wealth addicts, they build the foundation of culture. Unfortunately, those addicted in the vice, they undermine the foundation of culture. Those are my notes from reading chapter 3 as a student of this, and coming into revelations about myself. I learned so much from you, Christine, and the opportunity for us to work together over the years
Thank you.
as we grow together. The distinction between student and teacher blurs.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank
so
you.
you've given me such a gift with your example. And this book is freaking not only amazing, it's necessary, because as an interviewer of hundreds of entrepreneurs, oh my God, is this so true?
Yeah.
And
I
you are
think that,
onto something.
thank
I
you.
really want to share that and give that out. And there's such a small body of literature around this topic. Um, Gardner, and I don't even recall the other guy's name. It's too hard to pronounce, but Beckwith is easy. And man, those are my notes though from chapter 3, like the wealth addict. And that is
Yeah.
not, hopefully, to not disturb or upset anyone that's currently suffering from some of those negative consequences of somebody that's turned that other corner. But I want to make a point with the wealth addict. The business, what I mean by it eats us, is like it's all on. I've seen you work. It's all on your shoulders, and to the betterment of your life partner, your son, your family, your loved ones, your friends that are inspired and motivated. Yeah, we have those that aren't, but maybe then the community, right? Think about all the good that people that build businesses and work for companies that work really hard. They create the economy. So that was my big breakthrough from reading chapter 3, the wealth addict, the wealth
Yeah.
creator.
Yeah. I mean, I'll end by saying this. For a large part of my career, when I wrote Wise Eyes, which took me 10 years to write, essentially in 2006, I wrote the opening chapter, which never changed. And it's called Avoid the Noise. Avoid the Noise. So I knew then, setting down my staff from leadership at H&R Block, ultimately ending in demise, or closure. Really a positive story, because we ended up in the black publicly traded company and spared shareholder price. So it really is a successful, happy ending to a dismal time in the industry. But I'm going to say this, literally, I knew then, as I know today, almost 20 years later, can't believe it's been 20 years since that happened, almost, soon to be. Um, I knew what to listen to and what not to listen to. This is the hardest thing you will ever do. Um, we pray to mentors, we have idols, we have bosses, we have spouses. Everybody's giving you free advice. It is so easy to be a sheep in the world and follow the herder that's nearest to you. It is so hard to have an eyesight that can strategically, intellectually, culturally, and I think, emotionally, first learn who you are and the way you want to go, because your path's going to be different than other people. Understand where your defiant traits lie, because that's the ultimate, cock blocker of success. And I was that person for many years, revengeful towards people. I wanted a popular vote. I didn't always get it. I didn't like naysayers. I had a hard time with haters. My last decade of professional development, which I outline in my prior book, Finding Honor, The Journey to the Truth, is about me coming into terms with who I am. And I have to tell you, I couldn't write High Selling is a Drug 10 years ago, because I would have been worried about the critics. I would have been worried about the people who read the story that I write in chapter 1 about the woman on the team that I joined as a new originator for the very first time in my life, who was not nice to me, who I looked up to and idolized prior to getting onto that team, who was mean to me and did not want another hen in the hen house. And it was a horrible time to start a new job because she made me very uncomfortable. I had hoped she would take my hand and help me. She did not, but she gave me this tremendous gift, a gift worthy of me writing about. She challenged me. Could I survive in this group without a warm welcome? She bragged about being number one. She had the VIP pass underneath the building that allowed her to be parked next to the elevator where the rest of us had to walk a mile to get into the building. And all I remember as she was mean to me is, bitch, I'm going to have that fucking pass. And you know what? In 2 years' time, which was a long 2 years, I had that VIP pass. And I can poignantly remember, in the book, I call her a fat old lady, which this book has an edge. And the reason is this is my moment. I lived through the quiet moments of my career eating the shit that was given to me by people that were not kind. I found my way forward on my own lens, often alone. And today I'm writing a book about what that journey and what high selling looks like. Because it's not candy, it's not pretty, it's not rainbows. And I am not jaded, but I unapologetically in this book because of who I am today and how comfortable I am in my skin, and because I know what success looks like and what it takes to be successful. And this is my moment. This woman's forever written into the history books of my story, because I got to stand in the window with my coffee and watch her walk from a mile away in the parking lot. And those moments in my career are what shaped me into being the tenacious, fighting salesperson that I am today with the edge that I have today. This book's going to grab performers and it's going to make them, run towards their success. I just truly believe it.
You're unbelievable. If you're listening to this episode, please invest in yourself, pick up high selling, follow Christine's journey, find your journey to the truth. Leave us our view on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time.